Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, a Section 18 emergency exemption has been granted for Mid-South cotton farmers.
We have two southern gardening segments today. We'll have the blue butterfly bush as well as the Oakleaf Hydrangea. It's a native plant that sparkles.
In the markets, traders wonder how big the cotton supply is going to be as the government forecasts export sales for all U.S. crops.
In the feature segment, scientists in Nebraska are studying why pesticides drift from their target fields. They're trying to determine what formulations, equipment, and application techniques work the best to stop drift.
We've done a lot of work in the field looking at different droplet sizes on the efficacy side. And if we get those droplets too large, a lot of times the pesticides don't work. So there's a sweet spot in there where we're trying to hit so that we don't have a lot of drift, but yet we're still getting the control from that pesticide that we want.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
Mississippi farmers have permission to use a new insecticide on an emergency basis.
Leighton, tarnished plant bugs are causing big problems for cotton farmers in the Mississippi Delta. An emergency exemption has been granted by the Environmental Protection Agency, but it does come with some strict restrictions on what you can plant next year. Farmers located in the Mississippi Delta can use Transform WG made by Dow AgroSciences on tarnished plant bugs. 18 counties are eligible. This exemption also applies to certain counties in Arkansas, Louisiana, and Tennessee. Entomologist Angus Catchett with Mississippi State University's Extension Service said that the new insecticide provides excellent control of tarnished plant bugs and cotton aphids, although the Section 18 exemption is only for tarnished plant bugs. Transform has not received a full label yet from the EPA. If it is used, there is a 360-day plant back requirement, which means that only cotton can be planted in the same field next year. That would not be the case if, as expected, Transform does receive its full label by next year. There are no guarantees, though, so it should only be used this year, where cotton will be planted in 2013. We'll have links on using Transform on our Farm Week webpage and Facebook page.
Today, we have two southern gardening segments for you. Many gardeners know that sometimes a plant does not live up to its name. Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us that the blue butterfly plant really does live up to expectations.
I really enjoy the spring season. Today I'm at Pine Hills Nursery looking for new plants for Mississippi gardeners. A variety that's sure to find a place in my landscape this year is blue butterfly plant. Known botanically as Clerodendron eugadensa, blue butterfly plant has intricate flowers that actually resemble little blue butterflies in flight. The flowers are arranged in multiples on long arching branches. Individual flowers are about 1 inch in diameter with several pale blue lobes and a single darker blue-violet lobe. I really like the way the stamens and pistil arch out and upward and remind you of eyelashes. Blue butterfly plant should be planted in full sun to partial shade in the landscape and needs consistent soil moisture during the hot summer months. This plant will have an open and airy growth habit and flowers on the current season's growth. This is a good attribute since blue butterfly plant can become gangly, potentially getting upwards of 10 feet tall and 6 feet wide. So pruning at any time to keep the plant neat and tidy will not impact flowering. This plant will flower from planting to the first frost in the fall. Though blue butterfly plant is considered tropical, it is tolerant of cooler conditions and is hardy down to about 20 degrees. For most gardens in Mississippi, this plant will return from the roots like many of our other perennial plants. For possibly the best performance, Grow in a large container that can be protected during freezing weather. Blue butterfly plant is sure to attract a lot of interest, and since it propagates easily from stem cuttings, you can share with all of your gardening neighbors. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
In our second Southern Gardening segment, the Oakleaf Hydrangea can be a big shrub that features large and showy flowers in the spring. Gary Bachman tells us about this beautiful plant.
What gardener wouldn't want a native shrub that produces masses of white flowers in the springtime? Let's take a look at Oakleaf Hydrangea. We're visiting my friend Jane's landscape, and as you can see, Oakleaf Hydrangea is one of those shrubs that thrives in the partial shade shrub border. In fact, this plant has the potential to reach 8 feet tall if left unpruned. A nice feature of Oakleaf Hydrangea is the exfoliating bark, meaning the cinnamon brown outer bark peels and curls back to reveal the lighter colored inner bark. The branch tips and younger twigs are covered in light brown fuzzy velvet. Emerging foliage is light green and matures to a deep rich green. Known botanically as Hydrangea quercifolia, the leaves are lobed very much like oak leaves and can be up to 8 inches long. The underside of the foliage has a soft fuzzy texture. The flowers are real showstoppers, opening into clusters up to a foot long. Flower clusters are composed of 2 types of flowers. The showy florets are as large as 2 inches in diameter and are sterile. The fertile flowers are underneath and are inconspicuous. The beauty of Oakleaf Hydrangea has been recognized, as the cultivar Snowflake was a 2000 Mississippi Medallion winner, having double flowers starting out snow white and ultimately fading to pink. Perhaps the only real problem with Oakleaf Hydrangea is that deer love this plant. In the spring, it is a favorite browse plant. Oakleaf Hydrangea is one of those must-have native flowering shrubs for our Mississippi landscapes. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says there are single and double flowered varieties of Oakleaf Hydrangeas. They tend to weather dry conditions better than their mophead cousins. In the feature segment today, spray drift. It's easy to spot but harder to study. We'll take you to Nebraska, where they've built their own wind tunnel to study ways to prevent drift. Time now for the markets with Leighton. And Leighton, a new outlook on U.S. ag exports has been released.
That's right, Ernest. We'll be talking about what it means and what it says for the various crops in Mississippi here in a moment. Also ahead this week, questionable demand for cotton disturbs some traders. A building panel made from wheat straw makes its debut, while some analysts think soybean prices could have an interesting and volatile ride over the next few months. We begin with cotton, where prices have rallied some since Tuesday when futures hit their lowest price since back in February 2010. Market concern of late seems to be centered on the lack of growth in cotton sales, this according to analyst Naomi Bloom.
Demand is down, and with the U.S. dollar being higher, it does just curb the appetite from the export market. So if there is a bounce on a rally, take an opportunity and make some sales.
Most analysts agree there is an excellent U.S. cotton crop in the works as this month of June continues to roll along. So the question for many traders becomes, just how big a supply of cotton are we going to have? Well, analyst Alan Brugler says the problem is that the bigger potential supply is coming on as a recession continues in Europe and there is slower growth in China. Brugler provided a little historical perspective on how this market got to its current position in this situation.
Cotton's a classic example of what we call a short crop, long tail. You had a huge rally based on very tight supplies here in the United States and in the global market. And then all of a sudden, we priced all the users out of the market. People wouldn't buy the shirts at the store because they'd gone up so much in price because of the cotton. And at the same time, we got a big production increase worldwide. Now you've got the Chinese stockpiling cotton, but they're also saying that their usage is going to be down. And the U.S., of course, USDA is actually saying we could have a bigger cotton crop this year on less acres because they think the weather's better.
Speaking of better, a Texas firm is introducing a new building panel, one made from wheat straw. The company says this panel will be better for the construction industry. That's right, a Fort Worth, Texas company is taking the straw that is otherwise just tilled back into the soil after a wheat harvest, and they're making a new type of fiberboard out of it. Company officials claim the new product is capable of replacing a number of traditional building materials. From wheat to soybeans now, a market that many analysts expect to be in an up and down pattern as time goes on. Trader Sue Martin says it's going to be an interesting ride this summer.
So this year's new crop contract, because of concerns or anticipation of bigger acres, regardless of the fact that world stocks are tightening, the attitude is that we're going to grow acres, and everybody's focused about the supply and slowing of demand because of world economies. I'm not sure I'm totally buying into that. See, I'm very friendly for the year of 2013, so I think it possibly we turn and the market goes something like this. Maybe, and not only on beans, but corn and maybe wheat. We rally up into June, get a peak, turn around, fall back, and we step down into July. Might be July 17th, could be to the latter part of July. Then you get a dicey rally into September. And then from there, we'll have to see what we're really made of.
Well, as you know, we're still in the month of June, which is Dairy Month. So we have yet another trivia quiz related to this ag sector for you. Here is the question. How many commercial dairy farms are there in Mississippi? Pick your answer from these four choices. 120 dairy farms, or 149, or 190, or as high as 267. We'll tell you the correct response in a few more minutes.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar in the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports on how the strong dollar is affecting prices. In the feature segment today, spray drift. It occurs when pesticides are blown away from their target areas. Nebraska scientists are trying to tackle it.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed in farm tractor accidents. Transporting and lifting objects with a front loader requires extreme caution. Unsecured objects can roll or slide down the loader arms and injure the driver. To help prevent injuries, tractors should be equipped with a falling objects protection system. Always secure loads or use a bale spear or straps before lifting objects. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Now, before we look at the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. It's called Palmer Amaranth, but most people call it pigweed. Mississippi State University is hosting a pigweed field day on Thursday, June 14th. The hours are 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Lunch is provided. Control methods in corn, cotton, and soybeans will be covered. The location is off Highway 82 west of Greenville. Turn south once you get on west of Greenville there on Tampa Drive. Go 1 mile. There will be signs posted along the way. We will have directions on the Farm Week website. The 2012 North Mississippi Grazing School takes place Friday, June 29th. The location is Mississippi State University's North Mississippi Research and Extension Center on Highway 145 at Verona. Rotational grazing, electric fencing, financial assistance programs for grazing, hay and beef cattle marketing will be some of the items on the program. There's no registration fee, but they would like you to register by June 18th so they'll know how many are coming. We will have contact information once again on the calendar and the Facebook page. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Every week in the markets, we usually have some commentary to the effect that the dollar is stronger or the dollar is weaker. Analyst Alan Brugler explains why this is important to know and how it especially impacts our U.S. commodity export sales.
Commodities are priced in dollars, and a stronger dollar means it takes less dollars per bushel or per ton. So that's working against any price advance in the ag commodities if the dollar's going up. It does, in some cases, make us less competitive in the world market against someone else who floats our currency, say Brazil. But the fundamentals are still going to rule in the end. If we have weather problems or something else that tightens supplies, the market will go up even if the dollar's stronger.
The latest USDA trade analysis has our export numbers falling. Here's a recap of those projections for many crops, including corn, soybeans, wheat, and cotton.
Value of corn exports is expected to decline due primarily to prospects for a record U.S. corn crop and greater foreign competition. As expected, U.S. soybean shipments are forecast to decline due to greater early season shipments from South America. However, U.S. soybeans may be in a more competitive position given reduced prospects for the current crop in Brazil and Argentina. Wheat exports are expected to fall 30% due to record world supply and lower prices in breadbasket regions of the former Soviet Union, now behind Russian and Ukrainian borders. Cotton exports also are expected to be 30% lower due to lower U.S. supplies and falling prices.
A Nashville, Indiana-based research firm said recently that shippers, including the agricultural sector, can expect more upward pressure on truck pricing through the fall. That firm, FTR Associates, says tight capacity, the effect of new regulations, and of course, rising operating costs, all of these are going to serve to push truck rates higher as freight demand rises through the fall of this year. Now, this means trucking operators have the upper hand in most price negotiations. Well, let's take a quick look back now at that trivia answer as we wrap up the markets for yet another week. A is the correct answer. There were 120 licensed Grade A commercial dairy farms in Mississippi. Now, this was at the onset of the year 2011.
In today's feature segment, spray drift. If you're not a farmer or you don't live next to a farm field, you might be unfamiliar with it. Spray drift occurs when a pesticide floats away from its intended target area. When this occurs, a herbicide can start killing crops instead of the weeds that were intended. Drift can occur for a variety of reasons, and it doesn't always have to be windy. Scientists in Nebraska have built a wind tunnel to see what kind of technology, chemistry, and management it takes to reduce drift. Mark to Market's Perry Stoner reports.
Wind can have an impact on the livelihood of farmers. It dries out crops and erodes topsoil, but it also impacts farmers when they are applying chemicals to crop fields. To better understand that impact, researchers have brought the wind inside. As an electric engine revs up, Greg Kruger, a crop systems specialist with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, explains the setup.
At the far end, we have an axial flow fan, and that creates an airflow. Then we've got an air straightener or a honeycomb that gets that airflow going straight down the wind tunnel. And we've set up a single nozzle sprayer inside this 4-foot by 4-foot wind tunnel. And then back behind that, we've got a scrubber system, which will pull out all the particles in the air that we've generated from running that sprayer system inside that wind tunnel.
The sprayer sends water through the tunnel. Kruger and his team are trying out dozens of nozzles, searching for the most efficient and effective chemical application methods. It starts with the droplet size coming out of the nozzle.
We know that the smaller the droplet size, the greater the drift potential. Those small droplets take longer to reach the ground. So anytime we've got an airflow that's pushing those droplets, if it takes longer to get to the ground, it's going to move farther from the point where it was released. So with our applications and what we do with the applicators is try to get them to use nozzles and pressures and spray solutions that are going to give them larger droplet size so that we get more of those droplets to the intended target.
Chemicals are designed to keep crop diseases and pests in check. The research is also investigating how much pressure is ideal for application. The more forced use to apply chemicals usually means smaller droplet size.
We've done a lot of work in the field looking at different droplet sizes on the efficacy side. And if we get those droplets too large, a lot of times the pesticides don't work. So there's a sweet spot in there where we're trying to hit so that we don't have a lot of drift, but yet we're still getting the control from that pesticide that we want.
Near the fan in the wind tunnel is a honeycomb-shaped attachment which keeps the 15-mile-per-hour wind blowing as straight as possible. This introduces an element of physics to the tunnel and accuracy to the measurements. Each droplet sprayed in the tunnel is measured when it bends the light of the laser beam set up at the opposite end of the tunnel.
Anytime something crosses that laser beam, it changes the angle of that light that the lens picks up. So depending on how far that light bends, the lens knows how, or the lens sends that information to the computer, and the computer determines how big the droplet size is. Now, kind of counterintuitive, the more that light bends, the smaller the droplet is. So it's a little bit opposite of what we would generally expect. The precision is much better than even we could get with the naked eye. The diameter of a human hair is about 140 microns. We're picking up about 1/10 of a micron on that laser beam. So about 1,400 times smaller than what the diameter of a human hair is the size of the droplets that we're picking up.
I'd say wind is probably our largest challenge. Just due to the fact of sensitive stuff that's around you. Neighbors, sensitive crops, vineyards.
The research at the wind tunnel is right on target for Kevin Wemhoff. He owns Vantage Agri-Service in southeast Nebraska. Applying liquid chemicals makes up a large part of the business, especially this time of year. It's windy this time of year too, and chemical application directions don't allow for much wind.
Technically, by most labels, it's 10 mile an hour. And obviously there are many, many days in Nebraska that's over 10 mile an hour. So trying to work within those parameters becomes extremely difficult. You play the best that you can with the challenges that you have faced in front of you between weather and crops and when guys are planting and how much you have to do.
Wemhoff's high crop sprayer looks like a large transformer toy as the boom unfolds to a span of 90 feet. Onboard sonar automatically adjusts the height of the boom to the rolling hills for optimum efficiency. There are other options to counter the wind, too. Drift retarding additives can help weigh down chemicals to reduce drift, and there are numerous types of nozzles to choose from to try to keep particle size larger.
The blue one on the bottom is a drift guard nozzle, which is one of the ones that helps maintain the micron size of the product as it comes out.
While technology and information have improved efficiency, Wemhoff says it's still important to continue to get better.
With more acreages, where we're relatively close to some urban areas, there are more vineyards, there are more acreage people, there are more people that moved out of town that you need to be very sensitive to. You're always looking for more data, more information on how far particles move to give you the best idea of how to handle a field.
That's what Greg Kruger hopes will come from the research at the new wind tunnel facility in North Platte. In addition to the machine that blows at 15 miles per hour, a much larger machine can be attached. It can create winds up to 200 miles per hour to replicate aerial chemical spraying.
We've got engineering meets physics meets biology.
After some initial testing, Kruger will put plants in the wind tunnel for further research. He hopes the work will aid in drift reduction technology, something the Environmental Protection Agency is already focusing on.
We're all familiar with going and buying an appliance that has an Energy Star logo and what that means. It means that we pick up that product off the shelf and it's an energy efficient appliance. Similarly, this DRT policy will have labeling on products so that applicators, when they pick up a nozzle or they pick up a drift reducing adjuvant off the shelf to use with their application, they'll know that that product will have the ability to reduce drift.
For Market to Market, I'm Perry Stoner.
And you can watch this story again on spray drift on our Farmweek website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. You'll also find Farmweek stories on YouTube and Facebook. We'll also have a link to the Market to Market website so you can read the story as well as read the script, see the story again. I think that's the way that works, doesn't it? That's farmweek.msucares.com. Leighton, one of the things, of course, in Nebraska and that area, they do have a lot of wind. That's why we see the windmills making electricity out here. Wind perhaps not as much a problem in our area, but we do have spray drift problems from time to time. We also have a problem sometimes where simply the heat we have in our area can make, if the droplets are small enough, the convection can make those move off site as well. So it doesn't have to necessarily be windy.
Well, they're really walking a fine line here and trying to control the drift, but yet get the effectiveness they want out of the chemicals.
Part of that runs down to calibration. In fact, the Extension Service in Mississippi holding some calibration workshops, which you can find out about from your county office. So once again, trying to speed, droplet size versus efficiency, because you want to get stuff on there where it will work, but then again, you don't want to get it on your neighbors or some of your other crops as well.
Right.
Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, Old Iron.
You'll meet the man who designed two of America's iconic tractors, and he did it for two different companies. Harold Brock led the teams that designed the Ford 9N and the John Deere 4020.
Also next week, Go Gardens. They're teaching young and old in Lamar County, Mississippi.
In southern gardening, landscape roses. You don't have to baby these in order to enjoy their beauty.
And if you'd like further information on a Farm Week story or have something to suggest to us, get in touch. You'll also find us on Facebook and YouTube. Our mailing address, Farm Week Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. That's Farm Week Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. Our telephone number, 662-325-2262. You can also contact us through your county office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.